What's up, fantasy managers? I want to talk about the big guys up front because they should be able to eat their cake too. The offensive line is important for your fantasy players to score points. I have the Week 11 offensive line report that you should know about. I know you're interested, so stick around for 7 seconds. This information can help you decide your own fantasy tiebreakers, who to start, who to sit. By understanding who has the advantage in the trenches will give you advantage over your league mates. I will give you 3 players that you should target. I'll give you 3 players that you should avoid. All this information is on PFF. I'm subscribed to it, so you don't have to, but I will relay the message to you, starting with my notes right now. So let's just jump right into the first game. And the first game I want to talk about is the Denver Broncos versus the Atlanta Falcons. The Broncos offensive line has earned an 81.7 pass blocking grade. That's the second best mark in the league and allowed just a 15.8% pressure rate. That is the best in the entire NFL. While Atlanta's defensive line ranks 31st in pass rush grade at 54.6 and 31st in pressure rate at 27% overall. So what's this saying? They're saying the Denver Broncos have one of the best lines, if not the best line, in protecting the quarterback. They do not allow pressure to the quarterback. And Atlanta's defensive line, well, they can't get to the quarterback. They're one of the worst. They cannot put pressure on the quarterback. So who does this benefit? This actually benefits a whole lot of people, and we're going to talk about 2 of them. But the first person we're going to talk about is quarterback Bo Nix. And Bo Nix is somebody that you want to put into your roster to light up your team this week. This is actually Tyler's streamer of the week for quarterbacks, and why not? Bo Nix has been secretly putting up a crazy year. Since week 5, this guy's put up 22 points, 20, 13, 29, 16, and 16. He is 8th in pass attempts. He is number 1 in deep ball attempts. He's 2nd in air yards, and this is one of my favorite things here. His rushing touchdowns for a quarterback, he's 3rd overall. His rushing yards for a quarterback, he is 5th overall. Rushing yards per game, he is in top 10. And his carries, he's 5th overall for quarterbacks. So, Bo Nix, this dude likes to throw deep, and he likes to run the ball. When kept clean this season, Nix earned an 80.9 passing grade, ranking 13th at the position. Nix has also thrown 10 big-time throws from a clean pocket that is tied for the 4th best mark in the league. Part of Nix's appeal as a fantasy asset is his rushing ability, as he's run for 290 yards, that's 5th, and 4 touchdowns, that's tied for 3rd this season. That rushing upside doesn't go away when Nix is kept clean, as 16 of his 32 scrambled attempts this season have come when he isn't under pressure. Adding to Nick's upside is that the Falcons are allowing the 7th most points per game this year. So this guy he's going to have a lot of clean pockets from the Falcons. So he's going to be bombing it. He's going to be dropping dimes, but he also runs. And apparently this guy even runs when it's a clean pocket. He's getting pressured, he runs. Clean pocket, he runs. Or in clean pocket, he's dropping dimes. This guy needs to be in your lineup, and he will light up your fantasy roster this week. And the other player this may benefit from the battle of the trenches, you guessed it, I'm sure you guessed it, is Courtland Sutton, who is 9th in targets, 3rd in deep targets. We just talked about how Bo Nix likes to throw deep. Well, this is the guy he likes to throw to. He's 2nd in air yards for wide receivers, and he is 4th in red zone targets, and this guy is my play wide receiver of the week. So Tyler's saying to stream Bo Nix. I'm saying to play Courtland Sutton. We're doing this before PFF even throws this out. Maybe PFF needs to hire us or even support this channel. Come on, support this channel. We're trying to get up to 2,000 subscribers. Please do it. And I think a good idea this week, if you have the chance, if you have both these players, is to play them at the same time. Get the stat combination going for your lineup to light it up. Stacking Sutton with Nix, where possible, appears to be one of the more under-the-radar options as of late, with Sutton quietly finishing as a top 15 PPR wide receiver in each of the past 3 weeks. Sutton's slow start to the year appears to be behind him after having just one top 24 PPR wide receiver finish through his first 7 games and ranking as the PPR wide receiver 48. He's been the wide receiver 4 since then. One of the keys in this matchup comes from Nick's ability to work out of the clean pocket, as Sutton is the clear leader on the team with a 25% target rate on non-pressure dropbacks, which isn't the case when there is pressure on the play, because then it turns into a 16.2% target share. So we just talked about it. This Knicks guy, he's going to have a lot of time in the pocket because Atlanta Falcons cannot get pressure the quarterback. So when there is a clean pocket, if he's not running, he's passing the ball. And who is he passing the ball to? 25% of the time, he is passing it to Courtland Sutton. So add Courtland Sutton, add Bo Nix to your lineup to light up the fantasy points this week. Now let's look into the third matchup of offensive lines that we are aiming for this week. And once again, it's the New York Jets versus the Colts. The New York Jets was on this last week for Aaron Rodgers. They let us down, but the Arizona Cardinals might be sleepers. But anyway, the Jets, they are back on here for different reasons. The Jets offensive line has earned a 78 run blocking grade. That is the sixth best mark. While the Colts defensive line ranks just 14th with a 59.4 run defense grade. So now we're going to switch over from the passing. We're not going to involve Aaron Rodgers. We're not going to involve the wide receivers like we did this week. This is going to be about the run game. So who does this affect? Well, it affects Braylon Allen, but I guess not really because that guy only gets 7 opportunities a game. This is going to affect Breece Hall, and this is very important because Breece Hall has been kind of a bust this year. According to Player Profiler, he is 16th in points per game, and that's not good for somebody you got in the first 5 picks. His running metrics are actually pretty trash. They are shit this year. The one thing that is saving him is the targets, is the receiving game. He is top tier in that for running backs. But just know, since Javonte Adams has come to the Jets, his targets and receptions have cut in half. But this week, they are saying that his running game is going to be great, and this is a guy that you can feel, I guess, comfortable in putting into your lineup to lighten up your points this week for your fantasy team. Hall has had several poor games of fantasy production this season, leading to a frustration among fantasy managers as he ranks just as PPR running back 6 or running back 26, oh my gosh, over the last 3 games. However, Hall is still getting more than enough touches to deliver a top 5 finish on any given week, including when there's an advantage in the trenches like this week. When given at least 1 rushing yard before contact, Hall is averaging 6.9 yards per carry. That is 15th best in the league. Hope in Hall's case is that the Jets own the 3rd best matchup for running backs according to PPF strength of schedule. So, I mean, they have a decent matchup this week. He can produce, but what PFF is saying is because these are one of the better matchups that he's had in recent weeks, and he gets a lot of opportunities. I'm looking here that he gets weighted opportunities. He's number 2nd. Snap share, he's 4. Opportunity share, he's 13th overall. So he gets a lot of volume, and maybe this could be the game that he would actually be able to break through because the matchup's actually pretty decent for him. So PFF is saying that you should feel comfortable putting him into your lineup to light up the points for you this week. If you made it this far, and if you're enjoying the information that I'm giving you about the Week 11 Offensive Line Report, then please hit the subscribe and press the like. It goes a long way. We appreciate all you little zoners out there. We just reached 1,500 subscribers, and now we're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers, and we can't do it without you guys. We appreciate all you donors. Thank you for watching. Now let's go to the other end of the spectrum, and these are the matchups. These are the offensive lines that you want to avoid. These are the players that we're going to try to ice out of our roster so you don't have to worry about them this week, so they won't lose you the weeks. And again, look who it is. It's the Patriots. So the Patriots has been on here for 3 straight weeks. I get it. They fucking suck. I can say that. I understand because I'm a Cowboys fan, as you can see, and they fucking suck. So I understand the struggles at the offensive line. Last week, they said to pause Drake Maye, even though Drake May's been doing pretty well. He's been doing great, actually. And even in the running game, that's where he gets a lot of his points. But they said to ice him out last week against the Chicago Bears because of his offensive line. And he only scored 11 points. So that was a win for PFF if you listen. So this game, the Patriots versus the Rams. The Rams defensive line has generated a 38.9% pressure rate. That's 4th. And owns a 70.6 pass rush grade. And that's 13th. The Patriots offensive line has allowed the highest pressure rate of 39.8% in the league, and that ranks 31st in a pass blocking grade. They cannot protect their quarterback. There is always somebody in the face of Drake Maye, and that's when Drake Maye does not do well when he's under pressure. But when he gets his pressure, that also allows him. That's what makes him actually run in the pocket. That's why his rushing is so crucial, because even if he's not getting sacked, he's running around. But the Rams, they have only given up 146 rushing yards to opposing quarterbacks, and that is in the bottom 5. So they are very good at pressuring the quarterback and containing them in the pocket. Since week 6, Maye has been the quarterback 10 for fantasy and a solid streaming option since taking over as a starter. Of Maye's last 5 games, he's finished as a top 12 quarterback in 3, all of which came against defensive lines that ranked outside the top 12 in pressure rate. The Houston Texans ranked the highest at 15th, while the Jacksonville Jaguars are 26th, and the Tennessee Titans 30th, ranked well outside that range. In the 2 games where Maye finished outside the top 12 fantasy quarterbacks for the week, Maye faced the New York Jets. They are 2nd to pressure rate, and the Chicago Bears that are 10th best defensive lines. This week against the Rams, whose pressure rate is 4th in the NFL, should create issues for the offense line of the New England Patriots. And Maye, who also ranks among the bottom 10 in quarterbacks and turnover-worthy play rate at 6.5% when under pressure. So this is basically saying when you're a top 12 pressure rate and you're getting to this rookie, he does not perform. He performs outside the top 12. So right now, there's a stretch for the New England Patriots. They're going against tough teams. Drake Maye is not the answer right now. I know he's got an easier matchup towards the playoffs. That's when you want to start him. Right now, keep him on your bench. Ice him out of your lineups. And the second matchup that we want to avoid, the offensive line that we're trying to stay away from, is the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Baltimore Ravens. The Pittsburgh Steelers have actually been on this for 3 straight weeks. And in 3 straight weeks, they have been correct. Actually, I can't remember if they were correct last week, but the 2 weeks before that, I know they were because I actually owned the player and I had to drop him afterward because he was not performing. But this week, the Steelers offensive line ranks 25th in pass blocking grade at 60.4, and the Ravens defensive line ranks 9th in pass rush grade at 72.6. So they're saying that, once again, the Steelers, they cannot pass block. This has been the thing all year with them. And Russell Wilson, he actually leads the league. He actually invites pressure rate, which is kind of crazy. I want to accept that. But he invites unlimited pressure, okay? And the Ravens, even though they got a bad secondary, they get into people's faces, and they're going to get into Russell Wilson's face because of the pressure. One of the main people that you want to look to avoid in this is Russell Wilson. But I'm going to tell you right now, I do not really like this for PFF because this feels like a great matchup. This feels like Russell Wilson can actually have a potential to be a quarterback 1 in this game just because how he's been playing and just because how bad the secondary is. But that's actually not who PFF is actually saying you need to avoid. They're saying he's going to be fine. They're saying you need to avoid wide receiver George Pickens. But still, if I had this guy on my team, I feel like I'm going to play him no matter what because he's actually been playing pretty well with Russell Wilson. This guy is 8th in target share. He is 6th in deep targets. He is 6th in air yard share. He is 6th in air yards, a total of 869. That's great. He's 9th in receiving yards. This guy, red zone target, look at that. He's 4th overall for wide receivers. Like, yards per route run, he's 7th. Yards per team pass attempt, he's 5th. This would be very hard to convince anybody to actually not start this guy this week, but overall, PFF is saying not to start him. They're saying to lower your expectations. Pickens is the current PPR wide receiver 18 after bringing in 40 receptions for 639 yards and 2 touchdowns this season. However, only 4 of those 40 receptions have come when the Steelers quarterback have been pressured, and only 1 of which was from Russell Wilson. Pickens' target rate on non-pressure dropbacks is 30.8%. Is also a significant difference in his pressure dropbacks that he gets targeted on of 16.5%. While this may not qualify as a full-on avoiding of Pickens this week because the Ravens allow the most fantasy points to wide receivers, this situation for the Steelers specifically is enough to temper those expectations. So they're saying there is a chance, but because he is one of the least targeted players on the team when Russell Wilson is targeted, and the Steelers offensive line with Russell Wilson inviting the unlimited pressure from the defensive line, who's actually, ranked 9th in pass rush grade, there is a chance that he might not perform as well as you like, might be able to put up maybe flex the wide receiver 2 numbers, but maybe not wide receiver 1 numbers for this week. And the third and the final matchup that we want to avoid this week because the offensive line is, well, look who it is. Guess who's back? They're back again. We're going back to the Denver Broncos offensive line against the Falcons defensive line. But this time, while the Broncos offensive line performs well as pass blockers, it hasn't found the same success in the run game, ranking 21st in run blocking grade of 67.0 and creating just a 0.8 rushing yards before contact per attempt. That's 31st in the league. By God, that is horrible. The Falcons defensive line ranks in the middle of the pack as a run defense unit this season. So we're talking about the run game. We're talking about how they do not get any push at the offensive line of yards before contact. So who are we going to avoid? Well, we're going to basically avoid all running backs this week against the Atlanta Falcons, even though there was one particular running back, a rookie running back, that everyone was trying to pick up this week. This may not be the best week to start him, but We're not talking about him. We're going to talk about the player that you need to ice out is running back Javonte Williams. And Javonte Williams has had a bad season. Like I said in the offseason, before the season started, I said Javonte Williams is dead. Bury it. Just like when Superman told Batman, the bat is dead. Bury it. Same concept, but there is no resurrection here. Javonte Williams has not been playing well at all. The only thing that's maybe saving him is that he is 6th in targets. He is 6th in receptions, 11th in receiving yards, but it's not that great. But his snap share, he's 23rd. His opportunity share, he's 28th. In the run game, he is not performing well for you guys. Yards per touch, he's 38th in that. Evaded tackles, 34th. Juke rate, 53rd. Explosive rating, 45. This is not the same guy. This guy is dead. I got a guy in my league who still has to play this guy because he has no one else. Running backs are thin on the way that you drafted. But if you have this guy, I would do your best not to start him this week. Try to ice him out. For Williams, along with losing snaps last game, even if that was just a one-off situation, there isn't much hope here that he'll be able to deliver. Consider the poor run blocking. Williams is averaging just 2.2 yards per carry when contact is 2 or fewer yards from the line of scrimmage, earning just a 43.6 rushing grade. 66 among 71 qualifying backs. For Audric Esime from Notre Dame, who led the backfield in touches last week, he owns just a 43.1 running grade in those same situations, which ranks 68th among the same 75 qualifying running backs. This could be a week to hold on to this backfield for a multitude of reasons this week for those who can't avoid it. So that's what I was saying. If you have these running backs, but you're limited, there's injuries, there is buys this week. If you have to play these guys, that sucks because this is saying they are not going to do well. Javonte Williams hasn't done well all season. Audric Esime, he was a hot pickup this week because he led the backfield in touches last week. They're saying that he's not going to have a good game either. But if he does, he could be the running back moving forward. Actually, he would be the running back moving forward on this team. But right now, I'd rather just hold him back if I can and just watch the damage happen. Ice these guys out of your lineup. So now I want to get into my quick hits. My quick hits is where I talk about certain games that you want to be a part of or stay away from. And the first game I want to talk about and involves the passing and is the Miami Dolphins offensive line against the Raiders defensive line. The Miami Dolphins offensive line allowed 25% pressure rate, and that is turned into a sack 17% of the time. Against the Raiders defensive line that allows 32% pressure rate, that's kind of average to above average, but they're only getting to a sack 16% of the time. That is kind of like average. It's not the best, but right here, this is showing that the Dolphins have a 15% advantage. And this is good. So one person the two people that this does benefit, I would say Tyreek Hill, but Tyreek Hill is got something going on with his wrist, but it does help Tua Tagovailoa because he is actually number one in completion percentage under pressure at 76%. And I think one of the main reasons why his percentage is so high is because he is dropping it off to De'Von Achane, who is second in receptions for running backs. And I think we might be able to see a lot of that game because it looks like the Raiders can get a lot of pressure. It's going to be a real battle of the trenches. But it looks like when they do get pressure, he instantly drops off to Achane. So Achane can actually have a good game. Achane is actually my number one running back of the week in my rankings this week. So I expect a big game for De'Von Achane. And with game number 2 that I want to look into is the San Francisco 49ers offensive line against the Seattle defensive line. And what I'm seeing here is that San Francisco has a 41% run advantage against the Seattle Seahawks defensive line. The San Francisco 49ers, they actually earn a 1.72 yards before contact. That's one of the best in the league. And the Seattle Seahawks actually give a 1.49 yards before carry. That's like a yard and a half before they're even making contact on the runner. And who's this benefit? Well, there's somebody that just came back for the San Francisco 49ers, Christian McCaffrey. This could be his bounce back game of the year, finally do something for all those people who drafted him first overall. The San Francisco 49ers have run the ball 18 times inside the 5-yard line and converted into touchdown 39% of the time, while Seattle's given up 19 rushes inside the 5-yard line, and it's been converted 32 times into touchdowns. Well, that part could be a little bit that part could be a little bit tough. That could be a battle in the trenches at the goal line, but because Seattle gives up a lot of yards before contact, and the San Francisco 49ers, they earn a lot before contact, there should be a lot of yards given to Christian McCaffrey in this game. Now I want to look at some games that you probably want to stay away from, and the first game I come across is the New Orleans Saints offensive line against the Cleveland Browns defensive line. So PFF is saying the Saints have a disadvantage of 41% in the passing game, so that's saying get rid of Derek Carr, do not have him in your lineups. Even though their pressure rate is only 25%, and it only turns into sacks at 10% of the time, but the Cleveland Browns, their pressure rate in the defensive line is 33%, and it's turned into sacks 18% of the time. That's one of the best defensive lines in the league that's actually getting sacks when they're pressuring. So stay away from the New Orleans Saints passing game. I mean, they don't really have any wide receivers left, but I am a big believer that Alvin Kamara will receive a lot of targets this game and produce winning numbers. And then the last game I want to look into is the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line against the Chargers defensive line. And this is for the run game because it's saying that the Cincinnati Bengals have a disadvantage of 22% in the run game. So the Bengals only earn a 1.27 yards before contact, which is not great. But then the Los Angeles Chargers, they only allow a 1.24 yards before contact from the defensive side of the ball. And that's actually really good. And which is surprisingly low is that the Chargers only given up 4 rushes inside the 5-yard line, even though half of them's been converted into touchdowns. People are not rushing the ball against them within the 5-yard line. And then the player this does impact is Chase Brown. But the thing is, like, even though if Chase Brown doesn't get a rushing touchdown, he's the only running back there, and he's involved in the passing game, so he could get his catches and make magic out of that. But I'm not expecting a huge game out of Chase Brown. I still think he could perform, but I don't think he's going to be performing running back 1 numbers and win you weeks. Now that's a wrap for the offensive line, defensive line report for week 11. Now you know which 3 players to target, which 3 players to avoid, and which games that you want to stay away from or some games that you want to be a part of. Every Friday night, Tyler and I do a live breaking show and answer questions from the chat. If you want to know where your player landed in week 11 ranks, click this video here. I'll talk to you in that video. Deuces.